Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be talking about the new Sonos S2 firmware version 15.7. It was released on the 22nd of August. I'm making this video on the weekend following the 22nd August. Today is the 26th of August. So August is coming to an end, and as usual, Sonos, with the exception of January this year, they have been releasing firmware updates every month since the beginning of the year, and they did that for 2022 as well. So what is new in this version? Actually, if you check the release notes, it says bug fixes and performance enhancement, and beyond that we don't actually know what the difference is. Now, a lot of you will go online and say that, hey, maybe I'm thinking that the sound is a bit louder, the surround is cooler, and there's more impact, more volume, and every update that Sonos makes you think that it's a little bit better. So here I am trying to be very objective about it. I measure things out before and after an update. It takes a bit of time because I make several measurements and I try to average them out, and I do them in a dedicated room, which is in this particular studio right here. Everything is in the same place. The mic is in the same place. So was there a difference? Yes, a very small marginal difference to the sound levels. But unlike what I have been reading online, I actually observed the sound level to be 2 decibels lower. Yes, so it's actually sounding a little bit softer overall. Now, note that the mic is measuring from both the front and the rear surround speakers, which the Era 300, the front is a soundbar, and that's a Sonos Arc, and is supported by 2 Sonos subs. Now, it is not saying that one of the device is softer or louder, it's just the overall volume. Now, that's the upfront summary for you. The sound profile didn't change, it just got a little bit softer. There are no other bugs, no other issues, nothing was introduced in 15.7. So if you need to upgrade your firmware, I would say this is good to go. Now, if you have some time, just listen on and I'll explain to you where the differences are. So like I mentioned, a lot of you would think that, hey, maybe it's sounding a little bit better, and that is the placebo effect, right? So if you are on this channel trying to look for an answer, I suggest that you try to subscribe to this channel, maybe leave a like on this video, leave a comment to let me know what you think about the new firmware update and how it has changed the sound for you. Now, I try to approach things from a very logical angle, and I back it up with the data. So with my measurement, I will show the frequency response charts, but on that in just a little bit. So it is coming to September now, and Sonos has promised to release 2 new products every calendar year. And in this calendar year earlier, they actually released the Era 100 and the Era 300. The next one is rumored to be the Sonos Move 2, which has not been updated in almost 4 years. But they have also been talking about headphone. The headset has been rumored for many years already, and we have still not seen light of it. So this August update, I would think that they are actually preparing the firmware, preparing the S2 software for the new product to be launched. And if there are any clues that we can discover from the firmware or from the S2 app itself, we can see what kind of product. Well, the thing is, I didn't spot anything. So basically from the software itself, from the S2 app itself, you probably can't tell anything that is different. And I would say that if you have a lot of Sonos devices, the so-called bug, right, that when you try to update, it will keep failing for a couple of times, because while it's preparing all the speakers, maybe you have 20-30 of them lying around, while it's preparing all the speakers for update, some of them will drop off Wi-Fi and they cannot reconnect again, and therefore the update will fail. But those products that has been updated already, it will still be fine. So you just have to repeat the process a couple of times, or maybe turn off those that are updated already, and you repeat the update process. It is troublesome, but that is only because if you have too many Sonos products like I do have in the whole house. Well, there's still one bug that they didn't fix in the 15.7 firmware. Well, I'm actually hesitating a little bit. I don't want to call it a bug, because to me, I don't think it's a bug, which is for the Era 300. Era 300, when it's deployed as a rear surround speaker, the center driver is still not firing out any sound. It's firing off from the left 2 speakers or the right 2 speakers and the top firing speaker, but it's not firing anything from the center driver. And to me, because when you are positioning them to the rear, or maybe they're quite close to your ears, you don't want the center channel to fire off, and it brings attention to where the speaker is. Now, I don't want to localize and locate where the speaker is, and I think that provides a smoother surround bubble. But I know some of you want that, and you want all 6 drivers to be firing to make sure that you get as much sound and volume as you can out of the Era 300s. Now, the Era 300, a pair of them will have a total of 12 drivers. So in surround mode, you're going to be only using 10 of them because the 2 center driver, one on each side, is not going to be firing off. Now, in that particular case, you're already getting quite a bit of drivers. So don't sweat the one driver. 15.7, just to disappoint the rest of you who are waiting for that, it is still not a bug that is fixed, if you call it a bug. Now, I thought that what Sonos could do was to implement a switch to say turn it on or turn it off. Then it should satisfy both camps, including you and me. Well, sometimes new software tends to introduce problems, right? Like just before the launch of the Sonos Sub Mini last year, with version 14.12, they actually introduced and rolled out a bug, right? Is it rolled out a bug because it probably wasn't intentional? I don't know, right? But 14.12, the whole sound profile was messed up for those of you who are using a sub together with TruePlay. So when you turn on TruePlay and if you have a sub Gen 2 or Gen 3 that was paired to your system, the whole sub output was nerfed terribly. So it wasn't until 14.18 before that was fixed, and that was a good 3 months later. And that was when Sonos was trying to prepare the firmware version for the Sonos Sub Mini. So this time round, nothing has changed, and it is probably a good thing. So if you go into the software, there is an option for you to turn off auto update, and I would suggest that you keep that off. And if there's a new version and Sonos prompts you to do the update, maybe check back to this channel, bookmark my page, subscribe to this channel. Every new software update from Sonos, I will be covering on this channel, and that's what I do. Now, then from there, you can actually tell and say that, okay, maybe this is a good update, you can do it, or maybe you can't. Now, I do this for everybody. If you would like to support the channel, really, a subscription will work really well. And I do have a Patreon account. I will link the QR code right here. If you scan the QR code, it will bring you to a Patreon account for a monthly contribution to my coffee fund. The other way you could do it is you could join the channel here, but don't do all this because this actually introduces a monthly fee that you are paying, and YouTube or Patreon will take a cut. Well, similarly, it's the same. There's a super like button here, super thank, I think, and you can thank me with a small one-time tip. Now, that aside, let me get to the frequency response chart. So look at the frequency response chart here. Now, this chart in green here, what we are looking at is the sound profile from the Sonos Arc with a pair of Era 300 surrounds and a Sub Gen 2 and a Sub Gen 3 in dual sub format. And that is the sound profile coming up from 15.6, right, in green. Now, well, it is a typically flat with a slightly boosted bass sound profile. From this setup, I'm very used to this sound already. So what happened was I applied 15.7, updated the firmware version, and ta-da! The rate curve. The rate curve is 15.7 on the same setup in the same day, maybe about an hour and a half apart after I did all the updating and all the measurements. So you will see that actually the rate curve sits a little bit lower. Now, what the frequency response chart does is it measures every frequency from 20 Hz from the left all the way to 20 kilohertz on the right. So every frequency, what is the volume that is playing back? In an ideal situation, it's completely flat because you put in 90 dB, it will come out 90 dB at every single frequency. But that is not the case because of hardware restriction, room, and plenty of other things, including the firmware. Now, when you look at the rate curve, what it tells you is contrary to what some of you are feeling, 15.7 actually lowers the sound output just a little bit. And how much is it? Is by about 2 dB, not 1.9, not 2.1, it's about 2.0 dB. So what I did was actually I shifted it up a little bit. So if you increase the volume on your system to volume match, and in this particular case, I increased it by about, was it 7 ticks or so, 7%, and it increased by about 2 dB. Now, when this 2 dB came in, you will see that actually the volume is now matched, right? So the rate curve at 2 dB higher volume, is equivalent to the green curve, which is 15.6 at a slightly lower volume. And when that happens, you are actually seeing that the bass region and the higher end region, the treble region, is a little bit lifted up. So in a way, the curve is actually flatter than before. So it is a good thing. But this is a very marginal change and not something that most of us can hear just blind, unless you really have a left-right A/B system for direct comparison using the same TV, using the same source material, which is not easy to achieve. So my suggestion is go ahead, enjoy the new firmware update. Use it, right? Don't worry about it. And if anything, this new firmware update is meant for a new product. So if you are on the lookout for something new from Sonos, and I really hope they come out with the headphones. If you want to check out my preview of how the headphone looks like, maybe check out this video. And if they launch the Move 2, then check out this video, which I launched previously. So I'll catch you in one of these videos. If not, let's wait till September when the new product comes, and you can be sure I will be covering that on my channel. So stay tuned, stay subscribed, and I'll see you then.